Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world that we live in. I'm Rodney McGilvery.
And I'm Bruce Cunningham.
And we are Ancient Mysteries Revisited here on Welt 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming in to you every Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Streaming online at YouTube at Ancient Mysteries Revisited and on our website at www.ancientmysteriesrevisited.wordpress.com.
All right, today's show, we've got a very close personal friend and someone that has been a speaker at my conferences and hopefully will be a host at a future tour in Southeast Asia or somewhere cool like that. But we will bring in John Shaughnessy. Hey, John, how you doing?
All right, Bruce. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to reconnect with you and see what's going on out in the wonderful world of independent research.
Nice for you to join us, John. Do you want to give us a little background about yourself and a little bit?
And how you got started in all this this stuff you do.
Sure. It's always hard talking about yourself. I can talk about everybody else, but it's like all of a sudden the brain goes blank, you know. But yeah, I started off in the suburbs of Boston, learning how to park my car, and then I got a tour in the Navy. You know, they were graceful enough to take me in, and I was on a ship for 3 years and went all over the world. Opened up my horizon. You know, when you're in the service like the Navy, you're constantly learning things. You don't even realize how much information you're getting on a daily basis. You know, all the places you go, and travel really opens up the mind. And you know, I had a few going before that, some paranormal events in my life. You know, psychic events and things of that nature. So it was it's always been an interest of mine, and I would read. I craved anything on any kind of paranormal topics, things of that nature. And so anyways, we had one time out in the Navy, we lost power in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. It was a clear day, clear blue skies. Cool. There wasn't a wave on the ocean. It was like glass. You couldn't see where the horizon began or ended. And here's this big, mighty nuclear power, not nuclear power, we had nuclear weapons on it. Military ship, and all of a sudden we're just totally out, black, dead in the water, no power, no electricity, no lights, nothing. And it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So with that in mind, I started to crave information about the Bermuda Triangle. I started reading a lot of books, so kind of self-taught guy. And moving on, I got into the power industry as a power plant operator, and then later on a supervisor, and so I was basically managing billion-dollar power plants, and taking care of union shops, union workers, scheduling, putting the units on and off, 100, 200, 300 megawatts power plants, fossil fuel. With that industry, you get exposed to just about every technology on the planet: metallurgy, thermodynamics, fuels, and things of that nature. So I'm quite the scientist. Not the best, but I got a little bit of knowledge on in the sciences. And then I always had a fascination with the pyramids. Always had a fascination with gravity, going back to the 80s. I had, I started reading a lot. I was in a job where I could read. I had a lot of time to read because a lot of times you're just babysitting equipment that's working and operating. You take readings, and there's some, when the units are off, there's not much going on. So you just, I had the opportunity, so I started, hitting the books again.
Nice.
And Einstein, Tesla. And gravity was always a big fascination of mine. I was always doing some Frankenstein experiments in the power plant or in my garage out back or something like that, trying to manipulate gravity. And I had some minor successes on apothecary scales of manipulating the weights of things, but not to the point where I could get commercialized or patent anything of that nature. But I did get a glimpse of how things worked in some small way, And with that in mind, I had so I had a good background in those sciences. So I walked into the living room one day, the TV was left on. I do the free fall into the old lazy boy, and this pretty famous physicist, Makior Ku, out of New York. He was on some kind of he was on the History Channel or something like that, and he said, "We still don't know what these pyramids are for." And that was the last words, and they cut for a commercial break. And then I'm looking over at I got a floor-mounted globe. My whole life, I've always had globes around me. I always had, small globes, big globes, blow globes. Not my whole life, but my adult life. So I was just fascinated by the planet and things of that nature.
Well, we need to get you here in the library where our studio is located, John. They got this gigantic globe.
Oh, I love them.
1968, and it shows all the satellite views of what appear to be lost continents and buried islands and such. And this is
nice.
In 1968. So think of today.
Yeah. I've seen some old ones. I used to work at the Museum of Science. And back in the 70s. That was another one of my introductions into I worked in the planetariums. I was introduced to the the stars, the constellations, quasars, and a lot of the other big energy sources out there in the universe. And that was in my teens. So it was like I was kind of being guided or molded along this road. It's the least path of resistance for me, anyways. And it was most people that get into this stuff go to universities to get educated. They get into physics and things of that nature, and get degrees and do whatever it is. But I kind of just an outsider, just learning on my own. But anyway, long story short, the globe was there, and I just said, "Gee, I wonder what's on the other side of the Giza Plateau." And so I get up out of the chair, made the big 15-foot trek across the room, found Giza, and I spun it 180 degrees and landed on the Hawaiian hotspot. And I said, "Whoa, that's a little trippy." The internet was just getting up and online, so I started Googling that, and there was nothing about that connection that I could find. And I searched the YouTube and all the familiar places. So that stuck with me, and it was like a couple of weeks. Just hammering that out, just going over it, and I said, "Well, what else is lining up with other pyramids?" So I started looking at other alignments. I found that there's a connection here. There's an ongoing, there's a trend. There's a pattern of alignments between large pyramids formations on the planet and volcanoes, supercalderas, I picked Pyramid of the Sun down in Mexico, lined up with Mount Sigiriya around Sri Lanka, and then you had the pyramids in China. They're lined up with it was the Bermuda supercaldera that makes up the Bermuda Island. It's actually two extinct supercalderas that make up that island. So, and then, Zell Tigre with the Andaman Islands, it just go on and on and on. So, like overnight, all of a sudden a theory developed that there was some kind of purpose for these pyramids, and that was magma control. And with magma control, you're talking about the larger energies on the planet, and tectonic plate control, magnetic fields, locking in magnetic true north to magnetic north. And so this whole gravitational theory started to come into play. And then I hammered out a couple of theories on, shall we say, like mathematically expressing the gravitational lensing capabilities of pyramids, mountains, and volcanoes. And then I came up with a formula. It's AML, which is area angle. Actually, it's angle of the pyramid in radii times the mass times the moon's angle over the pyramid times the speed of light squared divided by distance and the gravitational constant. And that is actually a balanced formula that was painfully hammered out by me and a few other mathematicians that kept picking on me. They didn't like the way the original they didn't like the original formulas. So anyways, they forced me to change the thing. So if I was right, then this mathematical equation is right. So it all depends on whether I'm right or not. So great work with the Russians lately, as you probably know. They've taken a pyramid and saturated it with radio waves and some other radio waves and some other waves, radar, I think, something else, some kind of energy. And what they came to find out was what they found in their experiments with using sensors in a laboratory environment is that pyramids focus the energy on the it's like a lens. So when they submerge the pyramids in a radio frequency, the energy actually gets amplified in the center line of the pyramid. So it actually acts like a magnifying glass with the sun. You take the magnifying glass and you adjust it, and you can start a fire. Well, the same thing was going on with the pyramid shape when submerged in this type of energy. So, and that's always been my content was my if you want to call it my argument was that the moon was, the moon's gravitational field was being lensed inside of these pyramids to perform a purpose with the magma currents on the planet. Last year was like the year of years when I could actually was forecasting volcanic eruptions based on the moon and the alignments of the planets. But what we did see, what we had perfect evidence was, well, let me step back. It's like last year was an amazing year because all the planets were on one side of the sun. So collectively, they were pulling all the subatomic matter in one direction. So all the planets were getting, the higher dose of radiation, subatomic particles, and charged particles and everything from the sun. And in essence, when that happens, and this is a track record on the Earth, it's like when that happens, you have a 3,000% increase in volcanic activity across the board on planet Earth. Now this happens, it's an infrequent thing. It's not like every 20 years. Sometimes you get a 100-year gap, sometimes it's 5 or 6 years, and then sometimes it's 25 years.
Going along with the volcanic would also be the earthquake activity that we had pretty majorly in the last year or so.
Well, there's major volcanic activity going on right now too. It seems.
Yeah,
like.
There's a lot of activity right now.
But yeah, there's always something going on. But when this happens, there's a recorded trend of a 3,000% increase across the globe. It's an enormous number. Of course, you don't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking about a 3,000% increase, and it's all over the globe. And of course, you don't hear anything about it on the news. You got to go to YouTube or something like that to find out about it. But anyway, long story short, you could see that the connection, which is between the Giza Plateau and the pyramids on the Giza Plateau and the Hawaiian hotspot, actually kicked in. So this system, in and of itself, was a relief valve for the planet. You could see this Kilauea was just, dribbling out, millions of metric tons of magma daily, just going out, pouring out into the ocean because of this increased external energy that the Earth was involved in because of all the planets on one side of the sun. When all the planets were on one side of the sun, they're also, the Earth is also getting in the tug of like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. I mean, there's a huge gravitational tug of energy, and that's what that system was set up for. It ends up being a relief valve. So in essence, if you didn't have that constant eruption volcano out there, called the Hawaiian hotspot, year in and year out, and it just sealed up, and you came into these external forces, which we do, and you had an increase, you would have possibly, instead of volcanic, magma flowing out of the Kilauea, you'd have huge tectonic plate slips. You'd have you'd have Yellowstone going off, or other super calderas that are dormant would be blasting off and exploding into the atmosphere and driving everything into an early ice age, or driving us into a short ice age, a couple
Just
hundred year
absolute
ice age.
cataclysmic situation.
Yeah. So in essence, there's a combination between the moon and the Earth, and the last time I think that we had a catastrophic eruption of beyond biblical proportions was at Yellowstone, was like 800,000 years ago, or 680,000 years ago, and right around that time is, from what I understand, is like that's when the last magnetic pole swap was, just in that area, in that time frame, and so that leads me to believe that that's the last time that they had seriously rebuilt the pyramid grid on the planet.
Well, the other one would be Mount Toba, about 75,000 years ago, was a super volcano.
Yes. Mount Manitoba. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Mount Toba in Indonesia.
Oh, Toba.
Yeah.
Okay, Toba. Okay. Yeah. So there is from what I found out. I mean, to me, it kind of solidified a theory that that's what all these pyramids are doing. And I came up with a theory that the smaller pyramids were used to manage groundwater. Like wherever mountains are, you'll always have springs coming out of it. Well, basically, what it does is it lowers the gravitational field. It pulls the water up to the mountain, because in essence, it's like a moon. You can the moon pulls on the oceans, and you get the high tides. But if you have a large mass that basically has its own gravitational field, so it's going to pull anything liquid up towards it.
Yes, for sure on that, John.
Wasn't that the purpose of the NASCAR lines in Peru?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's possible. I mean, there could be there could be a code. Obviously, everything that these people put down had a reason. It was massive undertaking, and there's a lot of megaliths scratched into the earth all over the place that could possibly be these alignments that I'm talking about, or maybe a connection between them.
Well, for sure. But the Great Pyramid House, the Golden Pyramid House in Chicago, John, which I think you visited that first pyramid conference in 2016. Well, the moat that goes around that pyramid house did not exist until they built it, and it drew all that groundwater up into a moat, exactly what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. It's I was there last year, or the year before, with Mr. Onan and his, they were, I guess they're going to rebuild it. You can take it down again and rebuild it.
Yeah, it had a terrible fire. Yeah, it had a terrible fire there.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think the guy's name's Rocco, the owner, and he was saying how when they built it, there was no water, and it just drew literally its own moat from the available groundwater within the area.
Yeah, so there is there you go. I mean, game, set, and match. It's all net from here on out, right? There's no argument.
Yeah, there's some pretty serious evidence, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the groundwater tables go up higher around these pyramids than, say, if you're out in the desert, the flatlands, or whatever, without any mountains or pyramids, and test the level of the groundwater as we spin through the moon's gravitational field. You don't hear this that much, but it also affects the groundwater tables. Like, just the same way as it gives you high tides and low tides, you get a high tide and a low tide on the groundwater tables because of the moon's influence on the Earth.
That makes much sense.
And then pyramids actually increase the gravitational field, and so you end up pulling the water even higher up. So you get a more manageable groundwater table that's a lot higher, and for the surrounding area where humans live. So in essence, it's so that's like one purpose. The other purpose is, if you look at all the pyramids around the planet, they might not have been on a hill at the time of construction, but over time, because they are a large gravitational energy focal point, they end up raising the ground that they're actually built on. You'd think it'd be the other way because they're heavier and it would drop in, but it's not. It's actually all the pyramids around the globe that I've studied and looked at anyways, but they're all higher. They're higher than the general
and
area.
Also with the work like Valery Uvaroff and Dr. Sam Osmanovich, according to them, there are tunnels, true tunnel systems under every known ancient pyramid.
Absolutely. So, the planet goes into these different, geological time frames. The Ice Age. When you go into an ice age, the water might be a lot scarcer, right? So you would probably, no pun intended, gravitate towards these areas where there's pyramids or mountains. So you get the lensing effect and you get the fresh water from the groundwater tables. So that's the thing. Like right now, we're all, the interglacial periods, like we're at the end of it, usually 13 to 15,000 years old. And then we go back into an ice age for 100,000 years, according to the ice samples, or it could be, another 15,000 or 20,000.
So, with your research, you would believe, and the evidence that many of the ancient pyramids are much, much older than the 5,000 years that we're told.
Oh yeah, way out beyond that. Like the another secondary control point for, say, I always go back to the Giza Plateau because they're actually online working in this geographical time frame of the interglacial period. You can see the evidence of it day in and day out. There's 4 theories out there on why you have a Hawaiian hotspot open, and they're all, you could shoot holes in them all day long. I mean, somebody's gone out and actually put some work into it. God bless them. But as far as, I might be a little biased, but as far as I'm concerned, my theory, I got alignments, and I have the moon, and I have gravitational energies that I can, tie into the system, and it gives it a lot more credence than the other theories.
Your theories fit. I mean,
no?
Like we had Christopher Dunn on the show a while back, and he's saying that the Great Pyramid was an energy machine, and it seems to tie in exactly what you're talking about also.
Yeah. I don't know what was he saying it was.
The Great Pyramid. Yeah, it was an energy machine.
Yes. I thought he was talking about converting some kind of acid into hydrogen and producing hydrogen and
that was one theory that he was talking about, that the possibility, but one way or another, it's an energy machine. And
energy machine, yes. That's like kind of like my theory. I guess I'm like out in left field, but I connected the moon to the theory. Even on my book, my first book, Pyramid Gravity Force, you get the moon, the volcano, and the pyramid superimposed on the Earth. And so, like, the energy behind the pyramid, that actually, you can have a pyramid all day long, but you got to have, where's the source of energy come from? My whole theory is based on it's coming from the moon. Others say it's coming from the sun. Others say it's coming from the vibration of the planet. It's some other electromagnetic stuff going on. That's all well and fine too. I mean, I'm not denying any of it, but as far as I'm concerned, and the things that I been able to prove is that the moon is an integral part of the energy that is constantly being absorbed and released on these pyramids and throughout these hotspots and volcanoes and things of that nature. They kind of tie it in. So, but the other part of the like I was going to mention was the magnetic field. Magnetic field being locked into true north, and you have magnetic north and true north, and that also has something to do with these pyramids and the moon and the magma currents, because the magma currents are very, very critical, part of the magnetic field. Now, today you hear the magnetic field is wandering, and its energy is getting smaller, lower. The the magnetic the field itself is getting weak, and that's probably true. But well, it is true. I mean, they do have some instrumentation that they can back it up.
And we know the magnetic north or south has been moving for a long time. Charles Hapgood's book back in the 50s talked about it.
Yes, Hapgood, and I think Velikovsky was even talking about it also. A few other guys. It's unbelievable. Those guys were just way out in the front row back in that time, you know. So anyways, so the magma, you know, I mean, you got the the solid crust, then you have the magma chambers, and then you have the supposedly it's a nickel solid core surrounded by a liquid iron core in the center. So if you can envision the moon's gravitational field just doesn't touch the surface of the Earth. It goes right down and connects right in, like thousands of miles down into the Earth itself. And they call it the Barry Center. And the Barry Center is not off the center of the Earth. The Barry Center is like if you had a relaxed 0-point gravitational field on the Earth without any moon, planets, sun, or whatever, the Barry Center would be dead center. But because you have these external forces pulling on the gravitational field, it yanks it off of center, and that Barry Center is like thousands of miles down. So in essence, the moon does connect to the whole planet deep down beyond the the tides, the high tides, the low tides, and the groundwater tables. So that all being said, with that system in place, that is going to prevent a pole swap, a magnetic pole swap. That as long as those pyramids are tied in and the moon is
functioning
where it's at
and functioning.
Yeah, I mean, I got a problem with my pyramids. I call them my pyramids. I got a problem.
I live on an island, and I always tell everybody it's my island.
Yeah, it's my island. I got a Braveheart there. Yeah. So what I was going to say is that the pyramids. I mean, the big thing is getting Solomon's Temple built, rebuilt, built at the Temple Mount. And I'm like, well, maybe there's a connection between Solomon's Temple and when to rebuild the pyramids. I'm trying to segue the pyramids into maybe it's a height of intellect that the human family reaches. We put Solomon's Temple back, and then we realize, hey, we got to put these pyramids back into their original design criteria. When
that's a valid point. Yeah.
Polished stone, because they have a better lensing capability, and then they can relieve any external forces that the planets do put on influence the Earth's weather and magma and volcanic and what do you call it, earthquake.
And when they're functioning, just like in your book, one of the you talked about that archaeologist back in the 1800s that just used dynamite for everything to blow it all to heck.
Yeah, the three, what do they call them there? It wasn't Petrie. Petrie was a genius. It was Weiss, Colonel Weiss.
Yeah.
Call them the gunpowder tears. They were just blasting the hell out of the pyramids. I'm like, and they actually had some massive earthquakes out there a year or so later after he did the damage. Like, he opened up the hole going up through the relieving chambers. He blasted his way right up straight through that, and in essence, the relieving chambers, they're not relieving anything, but they're a frequency generator. And what he did was he disabled that. Like that actually converted the gravitational energy into a workable frequency, and it did a lot more controlling as far as I'm concerned. It kept open the Hawaiian hotspot a lot more, so there'd be less, volcanic energy
activity,
inserted all over the planet. So, in essence, it's the major relief valve. Thanks, Al. That is the relief valve for the planet. So when they destroyed this, did that, they damaged it, like I said in the book, and then opening them up also affects the gravitational lensing capability. So in essence, it's like you take a clear magnifying glass and you scratch the hell out of it. You try to lens the sunlight off it. You're not really going to get the performance of a clean lens, right? It's dirtied up. It's got a hole in it. The things of that nature. So yeah, I would like to see a lot more emphasis on rebuilding these pyramids. But right now, it's like the same thing the archaeologists went through back at the turn of the century. Archaeologists are going out there digging all over Egypt. They're finding this, finding that, and the planet controllers, if you will, of the West. The priesthood, whatever you want to call them. All of a sudden, they clamped down on the archaeologists. Archaeologist was a swear word. It's kind of like independent researcher is today. They're very bad people.
That's right. Pseudoscience. Yeah, pseudo this and pseudo that.
Pseudoscience, right? Yeah. So they clamped down on it. All of a sudden, the only way you could dig is you had to go through this new organization. I forget, the Egyptian antiquities, archaeology, whatever. They come up with some 45-word title on who you had to go through, and it had to be funded by those people. So in essence, this huge organization got in there and it derailed a lot of the work that that was coming out, and buried a lot of work, because everything you did, you had to send. Even Petrie's work got buried. He had to send it into those guys, and they said, well, that's not going out. Oh, we're not going to talk about that. We can't have any of that. Okay, we can agree that the pyramid is there in Giza, and that's about as far as it's going. So they really clamped down on this stuff. So now so every time they try to clamp down on us, going back to the Middle Ages, we go into secret societies, we find a way to get out and around it, and this, that, and the other thing. So now it's like the independent researchers are popping up all over the place. You got YouTube, you got the internet, so it's exploding in 1,000 different directions.
Which is it's a gift and a curse, because then there's a lot of false information too.
Yeah,
with so many people being interested.
Catch-22.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you do, and then you have people purposely throwing out misinformation.
Exactly.
So there is an organization, a hierarchy of control on the planet, the pyramid, and it's shaped like a pyramid. So they'll actually go in and derail, and they'll just pull the plug out on you. You won't even get any access to the internet, or you won't get any books go anywhere. You lose your publishing and this, that, and the other things. So. But in essence, it's coming out, in small circles, and I think it's a good thing, because I think for me, I think there's actual purpose behind these things, and we should really get on board and look at what these things are doing, because our lives and the future of the planet, as we know it, actually depends on us gearing up, getting up to speed, and embracing this technology and putting it back online.
Yeah, for sure, John. We look, why are there pyramids in every place on the planet? And then you look at, like you had mentioned, Russia and India, two countries that are building all kinds of new pyramids. And so I think what you're saying is definitely on a positive note at the current times.
Absolutely. They're building pyramids and doing a lot of testing and things of that nature now. We have pyramids that are already built, and we could put probes in the ground. We could test the groundwater table, see if they go up and down. We can measure them against this, that, and the other thing. We've had H.D. Buey do a gravity map of the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's where he came up with that ramp type of looking design. But in my mind, the guy that was working with that, I forget his name offhand, but. He went with the ramp theory. It was a great theory, and it could possibly be true. And I'm not saying it's not, but I think the other reason behind that gravity map that H.D. Buey came up with thousands and thousands of gravity readings on the outside of the pyramid, is that there's a stratification and there's a lensing apparatus going on, and you could see at the center point of the pyramid that it was actually a higher, denser gravitational field than the outside, and it was a 7 layers gravity stratification map that actually came to life out of that huge. I think that was done in the 80s. But.
Yeah,
But anyways,
you'll have to send us some of that stuff so we can put it on our Ancient Mysteries Revisited site for sure.
yeah. I speak about it in the book, and I have a host of videos that show the map
Cool.
also. Yeah, I think it's Houdin. I think his last name was Houdin, Pierre Houdin, or something like that. Yeah, he's got a great documentary on YouTube. Everybody's probably seen it, but yeah, it's well done, very well done. I'd like to get a documentary going and get some sophisticated, camera equipment and utilize some graphics to show what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Show how the system is actually working.
Yeah, that'd be great to see.
Drive that point home, and then maybe they'll start taking these pyramids a lot serious than the tomb theory and things.
I brought up Valery Uvarov. We had him on the show a while back, and one of my goals, and I'm sure yours too, we need to go together, is to get to Siberia and see that giant pyramid complex that Valery and his team have built, because it sounds just incredible.
Well, this seems like a crucial time for pyramid exploration, because everyone knows that there's earth changes happening right now. Do you think these pyramids, if like Valery building this pyramid complex and these other people researching and doing experiments, do you think that could affect future climate change?
I think yes. I think once the science becomes accepted, and then they're not dealing in 6.5 million ton pyramids. They're maybe a few tons or whatever.
Right.
So so I think like as it's a 2.3 million stones, 600 I forget what it was, 6 million tons, the Great Pyramid of Giza. So I think like on a micro scale, building those pyramids and taking the readings and seeing the gravitational changes, and I know they've used it to soften up oil fields where they can pull the oil up closer to where the pumps are, and actually had some success with putting pyramids on oil fields to pump oil out and things of that nature. So there's a slow moving train, if you will, of documented science and the actual results and the readings and you're having a lot more educated, degreed, respected physicists, theoretical physicists, engineers getting involved in it, and they're also backing up the science, which is a real good thing, because a lot of independent researchers are just self-taught, or they're kind of outside their field of expertise, and they're not taken serious. But once you have these like Valery and Sam Osmich there, I mean they're like they're some of the highest accredited scientists in Russia, I believe. They have all the
what they've done, and
from universities and the government, everything else.
And you had brought up like the Great Pyramid, that had been all the damage from the dynamite and such. The Bosnian Pyramid, the reason that has been so active with the scientists in the community is because it was never damaged in any way, it appears. And all the stuff you're talking about is still active there. And that's another place we need to be going in the next year or two for sure.
Right. And that's kind of a straight line right out of Abusir, Saqqara, Giza. It's straight up to Bosnia. If you a latitude line, I mean, it's not perfectly straight up, but I mean in general it's right up in that line that goes right up to the North Pole
on the grid.
It's on. It's a grid there. It's like a lot of the other scientists get into the magnetic grids and power grids and things of that nature. So there's a lot of energy, but the primary energy, I think, is the moon. The moon dwarfs everything as far as it's moving trillions of tons of ocean a day. It's a phenomenal energy that's constantly releasing, and it's a tug of war going on with the planet. It keeps us from spinning too fast. it controls a lot of the main functions on the planets. And without the moon, we wouldn't have the sophisticated life we have today.
Well, what's your feelings? And I'm sure you're probably currently on your book on the moon. What is your feelings? Is the moon an artificial satellite? What was it put there in the ultra ancient past?
Yeah. I mean, it's artificial, just like the whole solar system. This whole solar system was built to basically give life on Earth, and I think Mars at one time had life also.
Oh,
I think that Mars lost its moon. Whether it was all we got to go on was some the tablets, the clay tablets, papyrus, whatever, about an ancient war, and it could have been a war of the worlds. But there is a debris mass on the same orbital plane as Mars, 3 million miles behind Mars, that would be the size of a moon if it was all put together. Okay?
Well, I mean, Dr. John Brandenburg's work, Death on Mars, his last book, I mean, he's one of the most respected plasma physicists on the planet, and he basically says Mars was nuked, end of story.
Okay, well, yeah, there you go. I'm all for it, because it was either that or it was a collision with another body that smashed the moon out of the orbit around Mars. I mean, those what they call those moons, Phobos and something else.
They're really small, aren't they? I mean, they're like minute.
Yeah, I don't even think they're a few miles in diameter, if that.
Do you think
the moon's like
do you think the moon from Mars possibly was transported to our moon? Like, do you think our moon was Mars's moon back when it was civilized?
It's anything's possible. I mean, there's no evidence of it, but if a lot of these stories, Nibiru come down. I mean, you start looking at it, reading these things. It's like Nibiru could be Earth, or could be the moon,
or Mars,
or Mars for that instance. So anytime you move just say the Earth was just spinning around the sun without a moon, and you put a moon in place, you're going to cause catastrophic damage beyond biblical proportions. We'll put it that way. and then some of the stories there is that Enlil or a couple of those characters, I forget the names off the top of my head. But
the Sumerian Enlil, Enki, and the boys.
Enki, They looked down and they saw what they did, and they basically damaged the Earth when they came into orbit. So this is like Nibiru. Now Nibiru could be the moon, as far as I'm concerned. It sounds like the moon. Everything sounds like you move something in orbit around a planet. And then you go even further back, and a lot of the ancient tribes, the what do you call it, the Aborigines, and a lot of the ancient tribes on the planet, they also talk about before the moon.
Yes.
Was here. So it's like, well, it's possible, So Nibiru might have came into orbit around the Earth, and that's what we see now as the moon, and the effect would be catastrophic, absolutely. If you put the moon and all of a sudden you start giving it tides and this, that, and the other thing.
Until everything's stabilized,
Yeah. So
it makes you wonder that maybe these planets with moons are the ones with life on them. I just heard that NASA is about ready to send a life-detecting satellite or a probe or something to Jupiter and one of Jupiter's moons.
Titan.
Titan. Yeah. That's it's got water on it. It's got all the potential. Like my argument, I put a lot of theories out on YouTube, just short 20-minute videos, and I think, well, all the planets with moons have magnetic fields, and all the planets without moons have no magnetic field. So my thing is, it's the moon that creates the magnetic field on the planet. It creates the Van Allen belts that protects us from the energy from the sun. The charged particles coming in. And also, if you look at the other planets in the solar system that have moons, they have a magnetic field, like Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars has no magnetic field because the moon's gone. So
well, and you're talking about Jupiter. Isn't Jupiter like closer than it's been in a long time? I mean, I work outside at night, and Jupiter is so bright. I mean, right now it's very, very visible.
Oh, it's like a giant plane in the sky that's just stopped. Yeah, I was looking at it actually the last couple of weeks, and I think the closest was back in June, early June, I think. But it's still close, relatively close. I mean, it's an 11-year cycle for Jupiter to go around the sun.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be seeing it there for a while, anyways. But yeah, Jupiter's a massive player in the solar system. It actually plays against the sun. The sun is in a corkscrew trajectory because of the pull of Jupiter on it. Like we're just, the Earth and Mars, the inner planets, Venus and Mercury. We're just like dust on the cogs of a wheel, and then Jupiter, in essence, and the sun are actually in a binary orbit. They are both pulling and tugging on each other as we go 11.5 million miles a day around the center of the galactic center of the Milky Way center. So it's a big player. It's an enormous player, and I put out a theory that not too long ago, last year, I put out that the reason the sun has an 11-year magnetic pole swap, like every 11 years on, like clockwork, at 11.7 years, whatever.
That's part of the sunspot cycle, correct?
It's it's the you got the solar minimum, the solar maximum, but it's an 11-year cycle. But every 11 years that you have a magnetic pole swap on the sun, and what I theorized was that even though the Earth goes in between the sun and Jupiter 11 times, because we only have a 1-year rotation while Jupiter has 11-year, that 11th year is when the Earth comes completely level between Jupiter and the sun. You know what I mean? Like the actual plane of the Earth cuts directly in between Jupiter and the sun. And that's what I'm like. Why am I having to do this? Like I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Nobody's actually dug into why this happens. You know what I mean? So anyway, I put it out there. I'm not blown. I'm not, I don't want a big head or anything. But I just sometimes you just kick back and go, where is everybody?
Right.
So yeah, there might be some, but they're shacked up and they want to hold on to their theories to themselves, or they're scared to put them out there. Maybe
something going on. Well, there's some hope because so I put that out there openly. I copyrighted the theory, and then I just like everyone. I check out the published scientific journals once in a while, and I came across a group of Germans there. And they actually came up with the same, not in the same language, they came up with the same theory that that 11th year, the Earth actually cuts in between, the level plane between, and actually blocks or increases the gravitational tug on the sun and causes that pole to swap, that magnetic pole swap. There's a massive magnetic pole swap when those three come in. And then I checked out the I have a solar simulator, so I can look at the planetary alignments, going back 50,000 years to yesterday or whatever, or going forward 50,000 years. Some of the stuff is just incredible today. You can back check your theories and stuff.
It could be a simple app on your phone, for crying out loud.
So I'm a street guy, I'm just putting it out in the simplest terms possible. I believe in Einstein. If you can explain it to a 2-year-old, you got a good theory. Now, the Germans went ahead and they put this theory out, and they use words like intrinsic helicity oscillation, which in turn synchronized the periodic tidal perturbations. You know what I mean? It's like, what? What are you talking about? And then they throw in the 11-year cycle. So it's another way of plagiarizing my work. I don't care.
Oh, my.
But it's like, okay, you want to talk 45-syllable words, fine, have at it.
Well,
there's nothing you can do them.
Anytime you get what you're working on backed up, that was what really amazed me at that first Global Pyramid Conference in Chicago back in 2016. That there was 2 separate groups, like we talked, from India and from Russia, that were basically coming up with the same theories that you had come up with. So it's happening, man.
Oh yeah, it's coming, and that's what I've learned to accept. It's like, hey, it's like we're moving forward, you know. So it's like, and I'm not in their system, I'm not in their worlds, and that's the world they live
Oh
in,
yeah,
and they
the
have
independently
they have
coming up with the same material,
they have the
independently.
industry. Yeah, they have the universities, they have the backing, they have the money, they have the prestigious awards and all that stuff, and independent research as well. We just do it for the love of it, you know. We put it out there. So
yeah. Well, I'm going to get back.
Like
I'm going to get you back to
forward.
your pyramid gravity force. I live over in Southeast Asia, and Indonesia is the most active geologically place in the world. What pyramids coincide with the Indonesia calderas and such?
It's like every pyramid has a volcano, but not every volcano has a pyramid. You know. Now,
well, like Mount Toba, what would be directly across from Mount Toba?
Mount Toba, Southeast Asia. Yeah. Asia, in essence, aligns with, South America, like, say, Bali, the island of Bali.
Okay.
Aligns with Machu Picchu.
Right.
So the mountain ranges on South America line up with, Indonesia, all your other, mountain, what do they call it, Malaysia, and, all those other little countries. Now, though, if the ocean was, say, 200-300 feet lower, right?
Like it was.
The peninsula, the little peninsula that goes from Mexico through Central America, that peninsula of Central America, that would be more pronounced, and that whole landmass would all be above water and tied directly into Australia. So in essence, Australia would almost look like Australia, Malaysia, and all the string of land masses down there.
Yeah, Sundaland.
It would almost mirror, Mexico, Central America, and South America. There would be one string above the ocean. Like right now, you have there's a bunch of hundreds and hundreds of islands down there.
Thousands.
But they all. Now this is another theory that I put out there and got the formulas for, is that gravity, unbeknownst to the geophysics world, the theoretical physics world, has a self-balancing mechanism on it. Like, you get a tire that's out of balance, you throw a weight and it's hopping up and down, you put a weight on it because of the rubber, when it was vulcanized, is not balanced. If you build a pyramid of significant size, say 600 million tons, and on one side of the planet, the other side of the planet you're going to lower the gravitational field under that plate, okay, and it's going to allow magma to get closer and closer to the surface. Now it'll either it'll either blast out a volcano, or it will cause a land heave, or mountain range to come into existence. It'll swell up and it'll balance the planet off. So in essence, like, every landmass on the planet has an opposite, somewhat equal landmass. Like Australia lines up with South America. You have the Himalayas line up with the three mountain ranges. The what do you call it? The Rockies, the Sierra Nevadas, and the Appalachians. So the only thing that doesn't have a landmass that's opposite of it is the continent of Africa. Now, if the water levels were 200-300 feet lower, which they normally are in an ice age, a lot of those islands down the South Pacific would be massive, pieces of land. They would all, obviously be above the water line.
A continent, or just an absolute huge archipelago.
Right. Now, there's, like, we were talking earlier in the show about, Google Maps, and you could dial in on parts of the ocean. You could see, like, roads, grids under the ocean, and a lot of places in that area in the South Pacific. So that's that, and then you also have the Hawaiian hotspot dumping any increase in magma pressure on that side of the planet because of the Giza Plateau pyramids. So yeah, with that in mind, that's like most mountain ranges have an opposite mountain range, because mountains in essence are giant pyramids. They're all lensing the gravitational field, and the planet, like everything in the universe, is somewhat balanced. Like all the planets, they all take a round shape over time.
No, they're flat. Come on, John. The flat earthers have told us that they're flat.
Yeah. There you go.
And you just remember that the flat earthers have members across the globe.
Oh, they got. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No pun intended. Yeah.
I just had to throw that out there.
Well, it's like when we have the lunar eclipse. It's like a little finger goes across the face of the moon. It doesn't, the whole moon doesn't black out. It's just a little tiny finger, the shadow of the Earth between the sun and the moon. Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, what was good about these fringe, whatever they just take off. It's purposely done, because anything that has that much press, there's somebody behind it, and for a reason.
Yeah.
It's failing everybody. They want to put the brakes on. They don't want mass.
Yeah, they're throwing people off for sure.
Yeah, they want you to focus on something else. I mean, it's ingenious, but it's probably been going on for many, many centuries, if not millennia.
I'm assuming it probably occurs too when people are on the right trail of the truth. They want to throw that off.
Yeah, they don't want you studying gravity, because if you crack the code of gravity, the oil economy's gone the next day.
Oh, definitely.
All the energy that we exhaust on the planet, 90% of it is moving trucks and moving planes.
Oh.
So if you break through that threshold, then it's like, see you later, oil fields.
Yeah, it's billions a day. I mean, can't even comprehend what it really is. And, you got back to Nikola Tesla. I mean, he had that all figured out, and they quelled him big time.
Oh, yeah, they shut you down. It's a wonder they didn't off him. I think they kept him around because they wanted to. They just wanted more information.
Oh, yeah, use his knowledge. My gosh, he invented. Until about 20 years ago, none of us even knew who the man was, and it turns out he invented almost everything we use to this very day. It's truly amazing.
Edison was the biggest theft of his work. He's and Edison's got a nice place down there down in Florida, museum and everything else, but. It's horrific. Yeah, I think it's Edison.
Yeah, Edison. He's got that Greenfield Village. I was up there just a few years ago, up near Detroit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a pretty cool place.
Yeah. Case in point. This is why we're just kept in the dark like mushrooms.
Yeah.
So
sure.
That's it. They just feed us shit and keep us.
Well, I guess we'll move right along. John has a lot of different theories and YouTubes he's been doing, and we had chat the other day, and I come across because we had just had Steve Sora on the show, who is going to be on this Monday and Wednesday at 2 a.m. on www.acpl.info/welt, and we were talking about Oak Island, and I want to hear a little bit about John's theory on Oak Island.
Well, it's I just stuck with one of the foundations of the theory was this hole that was dug 100 feet deep, and then there was layers. They said there was layers. Every 10 feet there was another layer of logs, and it went down. And at the bottom of it, supposedly that's the glory hole, and that's where
the money pit.
The money pit before the brothers got there. God bless the brothers; they're doing a great job and everything. But I don't have it. To each their own, right? So I just focused in on that, and I said, well, that just is beyond everything. You mean to tell me that the Knights Templar are just escaping their lives from the crazy church and the King of France? They're taking their money. They sail across the ocean and whatever ships they have. And they hit Oak Island. The first thing on their mind is going to dig a 100-foot hole, like 20 feet diameter, and they're going to put the Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, and all the other treasures that they've amassed from Europe for 100 years or whatever, or a couple hundred years being in existence, and they're going to lower it down there, and then they're going to lower hundreds of logs in, one at a time, and then make these decks. And every 10 feet, they're going to put another, level of logs in until they get back to the surface. Then they're going to cover the top of the logs up with cement or stones, and that's the end of it. I'm like, this is beyond the pale of reasoning. I mean, I can go for just about anything, right? But
and don't we all?
Now, I've been up there in the Bay of Fundy and see these tides. I mean, the erosion, the absolute, I mean, there's 50, 60-foot high tides, even higher, every day, twice a day. They go ringing in and out. It's another great, visual experience of the actual energy the moon has, is the enormous amount of water that drops out of those the Bay of Fundy and then comes back in, 60, 70 feet or whatever. So anyways.
Well, isn't there a place in New Brunswick where there's a river that actually goes in and raises some unbelievable amount in just a matter of hours?
Yes. Yeah, there's a bunch of them up there. This is just one of the more famous ones. So anyways, I'm thinking, I'm not discounting the fact that they found this, this structure underground. They kept digging down, going through the floors, and then they got to the bottom. Now, to me, it just came across as being a tower, right? I mean, it's a lighthouse, and the stones on top of the tower were we lit a fire at nighttime so the ships could come in. They were doing it over in Europe 2,000-3,000 years ago, and it's possible they were doing it over here in the Americas. So,
maybe 10 or 20,000 years ago.
Right. So in essence, obviously we know that the water levels are up 200-300 feet than what they were, and the land moves around. Huge tracts of land move around up there because of the tides. So my theory was that there was a seafaring, ancient seafaring community up there that was fishing and bringing the fish back, and living the life up there with the possibly the could have been kept warm up there. Was pockets of warmth up. If you look at the if you get into the Bach Saga, which is another history of humanity that was run out of town by the church a few years back, a couple hundred years ago. They were threatened with 1,000 years ago. But anyways, this is a 50,000-year-old story about people being trapped up north during the Ice Age, and they ended up in pockets of warm water because of volcanism. So if you have it's the same thing as today. If you Admiral Byrd, you go back there, and he says he was up there in the North Pole, and there was trees, just like he said down in Antarctica, and they burned his books and ran him out of town. But anyways,
pretty much.
In essence, my theory was that this original structure was a tower, and then as the water rose, the silt came in, and just filled in around it. Now, in the video, I said it was a landslide, or it could have possibly been a large pool of an inland lake as we went going into the interglacial period. And finally, it let loose, and then it just covered this tower with silt and everything like that. And so, in essence, what they're doing when they drill holes, and they have been drilling these large, 2-3 foot holes and going down hundreds of feet, they're coming up with pottery hundreds of feet down, and not even near the glory hole anymore. They're all over the island. So
yeah.
So what they're doing is they're pulling up artifacts from an ancient seafaring culture that used to live up there. So that was my theory. Oh boy, I was in for a rude awakening going up against the Knight Templar theme,
Well, I recommend any of the listeners to watch John's video on that, because maybe we can get some different researchers expanding the information and theory on that for sure, because it's pretty powerful.
Well, in essence, they're backing up my theory, because they're saying, well, this isn't like Knights Templar stuff. This is, there's something else going on here. I mean, it's possible it could be Knights Templar. I'm not saying, it isn't, but I mean, it's also possible that, you had an ancient culture up there that happened to be in a sweet spot, if you will, during an ice age, and was able to eke out a living and survive.
Well, the Knights Templar had their own symbolism. Did they find any artifacts with their logos on it?
This is the thing. They have all the write stuff in writing, but the stones are missing. They've had stones and they have been transcribed. I think Anita Meyer transcribed some of the stones and said that was, it could be Knights Templar language, things of that nature. But the actual artifacts are gone. The actual stone artifacts that had these original stone, writings on.
Yeah,
them.
you're right. We've seen pictures, and you have some in your video, but they're just pictures. They're not the actual artifact.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, a lot of people have gone. People have lost their lives up there digging for the, the treasure. So, I just put out a theory saying, I think it's just the culture. Now, what's beyond everything is the Canadian Antiquities Department up there should be on top of this stuff. Maybe they are. I'm not on the inner circle up there, but generally, if you start finding artifacts, they shut down the whole place. There's a lot more control, and things of that nature, and they start tagging it where these artifacts were found.
Yeah, no doubt.
They might be letting the brothers just have at it because they are professionals. They're not polluting. They're doing the work, and they go in and when they leave it, they return everything back to its.
But when you look at the story of Oak Island since they first discovered the money pit, there's been pretty amazing stories of different families that have bought the land and this, that, and the other. And I mean, it's a pretty amazing history just in the last couple hundred years.
Yeah, it was like even John Wayne was up there, and Gregory Peck, I think they were pouring money into it. So. But I mean, that was based on the original tower. Now the original tower is completely gone. They've actually lost it. They don't know where it is anymore. Maybe when they opened it up to air, it just rotted.
Yeah.
So I got almost 300,000 views on that video. It actually took off, but it was very argumentative. The entertainment's in the comments, not the video. Skip the video.
Skip the video. Go to the comments. That's hilarious.
Right to the comments. That's what the entertainment is,
Oh, that's great.
Well, I mean,
I try. Yeah.
That's how. If we're going to ever find, we're all looking for a element of the truth of our ancient past. The more people we get involved, the more criticisms and such and research. That's how we're going to get there.
That's it. You're absolutely right. If we do, we end up, we butt heads with each other, but this brings us to a higher level of understanding and critiques us to be spot on, because you gotta back check everything. If you're gonna put out a theory, you're just gonna get holes blown through it. So, and then after that process, after that period of argument and butting heads, generally you come to a consensus. Shake the hands and say, okay, let's move forward. We can agree. We can agree not to agree, or we can agree that both things are going on the same timeline, or in different timelines.
I mean, that's the whole idea. Is I was chatting the other day with some people that brought up some negative ideas about these different people and such, and we need to stay on a positive note. We need to not be dissing people and bringing up negatives. We a lot of us do this, like myself. I want the information, of course, but I also do this for fun and enjoyment, and as you said, entertainment. For sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just the way humanity works. I think it's just you're gonna have everything's got to have an opposite. So no matter what you put into the world, it's going to have an opposite. It's like when you start a new job, you're looking around going, okay, where's the guy that's going to be bothering me?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
almost like prison, I guess.
That is so true. That
It's
is
like,
so true.
Are you him? Are you him?
I've never heard it put that way before, John, but that is on the money, buddy.
No,
Yeah, it was.
I can tell you it's from pure experience, You're gonna find that written down anywhere.
Well, I guess
But anyway.
we'll move on again then. What new stuff are you working on currently then? What are you working on? New books, some new theories, some.
Yeah. My biggest thing is like the second edition of Pyramid Gravity Force written. So I'm moving closer to getting that put out and published. I have I critique the gravity section of the book and have a lot more information.
Yeah, that's cool because some of the stuff you've talked about even in today's show is stuff I've not heard, and I know you personally. So yeah, you need that new book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff I've been putting out on videos, just putting it out there, and I'm kind of like using that as my my science department. Like a lot of the your professors at colleges, they have all the young minds coming in, right? And then they put out the questions of the day, or they delve into topics, and the young minds come in and feed the professor with all sorts of questions and all sorts of theories that he's never heard before, and he hammers out a book and gets published, and so it's kind of like you do the same thing with YouTube videos. You put the YouTube videos out, and they'll either love you or hate you, but it's still going to make you think and
for sure
get more involved. So that's kind of a system that I've embraced and I'm using. But another thing I've been hot on is time travel on the planet, like time slipping with the moon's energy, and being at particular places where you could actually go back in time.
Now, would that be like a Stargate? Would that be the Stargate concept?
Yeah, Stargate concepts, and maybe go back in time. And I think it's alive and well. This is a far out story. Is that plane that took off in the 1950s? It was going from New York to Florida. And it disappeared, and then it landed 7 years ago down in Karachi, South America. It landed in it was an old DC plane. I forget the name of it, but it landed on the runway, and the tower guy that was in communication with the captain is like, "What are you talking about?" It's like it was 50-year difference or 37-year difference, and then as soon as it landed, it took off again. So there's a lot of these planes seem to have the ability to tap into this time slip, at certain times, and it's all based on location, planetary alignments, the moon, and so I'm getting into so I've been getting into these type of anomalies.
Could that be with the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, you were bringing up that when we started the show.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what triggered a lot of my quest for knowledge. When you have these things happen to you, like, whoa, what was that all about? Of course, there's no official explanation from the Navy. They just, it was just a strange thing. Like when we were on the ship, everybody was quiet. Like there's 200 guys on the ship. We just lost power. Nobody's saying anything. Like we're just looking at each other's eyes, almost like we're communicating through our eyes, and really not saying much. There was a few chatter here and there, but very, very bizarre. And it was hot. We had air conditioning. It was 90 something degrees out, and all of a sudden the ship, you lose
no more air conditioning.
Yeah, it was hot. Yeah. So, anyways, So that's some of the stuff I'm looking at, and because if you think about it, the moon, the gravity. I mean, my moon book, there is something about the moon I put down that the Earth actually puts out a 6 phase at this particular moment, this interglacial period, puts out a 6-phase gravitational gear that laps up against the moon, and even further out. And in between those gravity phases are based on mountain ranges and the ocean. So the ocean would be a 0-point gravity, and the landmass would be a dense gravitational field. So that in essence is bending the space-time around the whole planet. Like a lot of times you'll see the funnel, the visuals on YouTube or whatever, the books. But there's actually, my theories are that the gravitational, there's a gravitational gear that is bending space-time with the moon. So if you tap into this this gravitational energy at the right latitudes, it could be on a mountain or it could be in a plane. Like I was saying earlier, it seems like the planes seem to be the ones that tap into it. There's a possibility of time travel.
No, the time travel and what you're talking about. Would this be something interdimensional?
Oh, absolutely. Interdimensional. It's it's the fabric of space. You get into Einstein's theory. I know he's been thrown out the door, thrown out the window with the baby, with the bathwater and everything.
Well, I mean, when you watch,
universe has completely gone off the
well, when you
rails.
watch
It's
these
like,
physicists, I mean,
Yeah.
using mathematics and quantum physics, in theory, on paper, anything is absolutely possible. There's no doubt.
Right, right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could sit there and run, just keep delivering the chalk to the chalkboard, and we'll keep making the chalkboard bigger and bigger and bigger, and everything's great. But nobody, we can't get down the road with anything better than 50 miles to the gallon. Like, what's going on here?
Well, the practical application is not always the theory, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like the flat earthers, the Thunderbolt universe, they all make everybody go back and relearn what they know. You know what I mean? They go back to it's like, what do I know? You know what I mean? And
Nobody knows anything nowadays.
Yeah.
Right. You have to come up and argue a point, what do you know? So, and I think it's all done on purpose. They don't, they want to keep the things the way they're going.
Yeah, but they want to keep a mass confusion going on.
The paradigm.
Well. Yeah.
They have a created paradigm, and we're not veering from that paradigm.
Right. Oh yeah, we were never supposed to get this intelligent. I think, they're like. Holy cow, like the problem, man. We got a lot of people thinking. We don't want people sitting around a coffee table, like George Carlin says, being capable of having critical thoughts.
Yeah, they want to keep all the knowledge within the secret societies. Don't release it.
Yeah. If everybody knows everything, we can't oppress anybody.
Right.
How can we make any money? If nobody's oppressed, how can we make any money out of this? It just doesn't make any sense.
That's too sad, but too true.
But anyways, getting back to the space time. I mean, space time is being distorted every cycle through the moon. Every time we spin through the moon, that space time is being twisted one way or another.
That almost goes along with our next guest, who's doing the Mandela effect.
Yeah, it could be all connected. But you could be lying in bed, and then all of a sudden you're in that twist of that vortex of time where it goes back and forward. And you're thinking like you're having dreams like 200 or 1,000 years ago, or going forward. So I mean, you're the mental consciousness, the subconscious, or the conscious mind could be getting affected by this energy that we're exposed to.
Well, that's an awesome thought, John, because like we're talking Mandela effect and different
the Mandela
different things like that. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I don't, that Mandela, I talked to a lot of people off the cliff, man. I mean, that stuff was scaring the bejesus out of people. It's like, whoa, I'm down, easy,
A lot of people started to believe everything about it, too.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, take a step back from the TV screen, breathe,
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I mean, these are grown men. I mean, talking about, scientists, it's like, whoa, dude, take it easy,
Yeah, but some of your ideas and theories here pretty well back up a lot of that thought process.
Well, yeah, maybe I better be a little careful about what I'm talking about. I don't want to harm anybody, I just want these people to fix my pyramids,
Or at least keep building more of them. I mean, that's something I want to do over on my island is build some pyramids. Is something. Well, Valerie was there for a week back in 2017 after our conference there in the Philippines, and showed some different places where it'd be good energy to build. So one day.
Absolutely. Yeah, just every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, you're going to be, you put a pyramid there, and it's got to be a significant size, but it depends on what you're looking for. You're looking for the, the health effects, or do you actually want to raise the island you're on? Do you want to,
raise the consciousness. Raise the consciousness.
You want to literally create your own island on the opposite side of the planet. That's what you do. You put a volcano, it'll blow a hole out on the opposite side.
I like it.
You name it the island of Bruce.
Oh,
there you go.
Hey, Canada actually has a place not far away called Port Bruce. So I mean, why not?
There you go. Yeah. I got a town up there, Shaughnessy too. Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. So I have to go up there just for a hoot, just to drive through. Anyways, just to check it out.
I have actually been to Port
Just
Bruce
for
and on a
selfie.
boat with a friend of mine up there, actually.
Oh,
And
there you go.
on the waves, it was Lake Erie. The waves were so bad. We got out about a half mile or so, and I told him to turn around and go back. He's like, well, we need to go out many miles to fish. Like, not today. Of course, that was before that was before I lived on my island, where I'm out on the ocean all the time for 2-hour plus trips just to get to the mainland, with huge waves sometimes that are just really, really frightening.
Yeah. The ocean can be a beast. Being in the Navy, I've seen a lot of different oceans. Yeah, a lot of different environmental, swells, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet high. We'd snap the ship in half if we were going directly into them. You got to go diagonally across them.
Yes.
There's a lot of wild stuff out there.
Yeah, rip tides and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, that'd be intense.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, that's kind of what I'm onto, anyways. Just getting deeper and deeper into the moon, and the theories behind it, and things of that nature.
No, that's cool. And we'd like to have you start coming on every show when you are available to give what kind of new information and new theories and new disasters and whatnot are going on, and as a permanent gig on the show if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get the word out there. Let's push it out there and get the ball rolling again. It's kind of like things take off, they get going, conferences, people talking about it, videos, then it just hits the wall, and then you kind of get stalled, and then this is a good good opportunity to get that ball rolling again.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. We can make you the new Richard C. Hoagland, long as your head doesn't grow at a level that you can't get through the door anymore.
Yeah, Richie, I gotta get I have to get me a swagger. I'd have to study how to swagger, It's like,
just put on your pyramid hat, and we'll just
there you go, John. The pyramid hat. Yes,
tinfoil on it, shiny side out.
Well, I mean, Richard C. really was brilliant in his early days, but his head did grow like 3 sizes too large or something like that. The Grinch's heart or something like that.
He had a lot of good points.
Yes,
he
he's a brilliant guy.
He reigned that community. Reigned him. He psychologically hammered them. Said, hey, look, you guys are off the deep end. And
his work on Mars and the faces and stuff. I mean, that's brilliant stuff. And hopefully he comes back to ground and starts being brilliant again, because he's got great stuff. But no, we'd love to have you come on the show and give like a 5-minute piece and see what's going on.
I love it.
In your pyramid world.
Yeah, my pyramid world with my language, down at the bottom level. No title permutations.
Yeah, I would personally love to get your updates on your time travel experimentations and research.
There's so much information out there as far as historical documented, time slips and planes missing and ships and this, that, and the other thing. It's all it's all out there, and I'd be more than happy to share with the listeners and you guys. Yeah.
No, and we also got to get you. Myself and Rodney, all of us, we need to go to Teotihuacan and. Of course, back over to Angkor and see Valerie's complex in Siberia and Bosnia, and let's just get on a plane today, man.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. I got to get going. I got the traveling legs bouncing up and down here.
You and me both.
We'll meet you at the airport after the show.
Okay. I'm about just to rent the car and take off.
Yeah, for sure.
See you later. Drop it off at the airport. I'll be back when I'm back,
Yeah. Well, John, where's the best place online our listeners can look at your research and purchase your books if they'd like?
Thank you. I got a YouTube channel, John Shaughnessy. There's a lot of Shaughnessy's on YouTube. Just put Pyramid in there, and you'll get my channel.
Okay.
And or Moon, and plenty of videos. There's a lot of radio interviews from secondary sources.
Now, your website. What's your website?
And my website is I got 2 websites. is www.tisatmoonforward.com. That's after the abbreviated there is something about the moon. And then pyramidgravityforce.com is the website for that. And both of them will link you up to where my books are for sale on Amazon and Lulu Books. So, there's if you want to delve deeper into my theories and studies and things of that nature. So
sounds good.
Anyways, yeah, that's it. And I'm available on Facebook. Like me, friend me. I'm easy to get a hold of on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll link you up onto our Facebook page as well.
For sure.
Give our listeners quick access to your stuff.
Yeah, and then let me know when you have this ready for publication, and I'll put it on YouTube and link it up with your channel and put it on Facebook, and let's get going. I think it's almost like we're in a lull. It seems like it's kind of lost a little bit of energy with the research out here, the independent research. So collectively, I think we can get this ball rolling again.
Yeah,
maybe it's just my interpretation. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, we were putting together a team, and you're right. We've kind of went away from it for a little while there. Of course, finances and such are always involved, but yeah, we need to get back at it and doing some tours.
Yeah, this seems like a good meeting point for the collective team as well.
Yeah, because we need to have the tours were always for fun, but they also should be much more scientific and research and educational and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep those minds awake and opening. One mind at a time. There people are out there. They're looking.
They're breaking free from the prison one at a time.
Yeah, they're like, hey, wait a minute now. I've been born into slavery.
Pretty much. Yes.
How'd that happen? They didn't even ask you. You get a choice. You just did.
I'm 60 years old and I'm just now figuring this out.
Yeah, exactly. How about it?
No better time than now, though, Bruce.
Yes, for sure. That's the whole idea of we're going to find out the truth of the ancient past, and we're going to have damn fun doing it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's just the eureka moments that you come into. Aha, we got it.
Yeah,
right.
Like your first pyramid lens.
That's it. They're all lenses, gravitational lenses. That's it. It's just look at it as a transparent lens. That's all it is in the subatomic world. Yeah.
Right on. Well, on that note, we're gonna close this lens for now.
All right.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you, John.
Yeah,
thanks for being on our show.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Like I said, we'll be bringing you on every week very soon, man.
All right, awesome.
Well, until next time, enjoy yourself, John. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, peace out, people.
This has been Ancient Mysteries Revisited. I am Bruce Cunningham.
And I'm Rodney McGilvery. We will see you again next time, every Monday and Wednesday at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, on our website at www.ancientmysteriesrevisited.wordpress.com.
And our show is streamed at www.acpl.info/WELT.
We'll see you again next time.